Hi everybody, this video is to walk you through a manuscript that is written in APA format. Hopefully this will help you as you're thinking about how to organize your introduction to the paper, as well as I'm going to kind of go through everything so that again you'll have all the information that you need as you move forward into 610 and 694. So this is a paper that I actually, in conjunction with my co-authors, recently submitted for publication to a journal. So this is in correct APA format, hopefully. We submitted it back in September. We're still waiting to find out, but I thought this would be a good one to go through because it's in manuscript format. It hasn't been published, so you can see exactly what it's supposed to look like. So we'll start off. This is the title page. As you can see, we have the title of the paper, The Effectiveness of the Tutoring Intervention for Students with EBD, noting that the title is in bold. Then we have a list of the authors in order. And typically the order of the authorship is how, who did what and how much work people did. So I took the lead on this paper, so I have the first authorship. And then your university affiliation. All four of us are from MSU Mankato, so we just need to put that. If we were from different places, we would put our affiliation under each person's name. We also have the page number in the right-hand corner. Okay, so that's your first page, the title page. Next page is the abstract. Abstract is centered. You have the running head here, the page number, and then as you see, the abstract is just a short summary, one paragraph summary of what was done in this study. So by reading this, you can get a really good idea of what exactly we did in this study. You notice that we can use abbreviations in the abstract. You will have to write them out in the body of the paper, but for the purposes of the abstract, you can use those. So you have a brief introduction to what the problem is and what you're trying to understand. Then you have the specific purpose of your study. The purpose of this study was to investigate the effectiveness of the tutoring intervention in a classroom for students with EBD. And then a simple sentence related to the results. Results of the study demonstrate the effectiveness of tutoring for students with EBD related to academic engagement and disruptive behavior. And then just a statement around what else is discussed, implications for practice and future research. So in your paper for 600, you will have a title page, you will include an abstract, and then you're going to include this next section, the introduction, which will be, for the purposes of this class, the entire paper. Okay? So now here is our introduction, page 3. Again, we have our running head. Notice that we do not title this introduction. We put the title of the paper here in bold, centered. And then we begin the actual introduction. So we typically start the introduction by providing some information and some data around the problem that we're trying to address. In this case, students with emotional and behavioral disorders and their interpersonal relationships as well as their problematic behaviors in a classroom. So we talk a little bit about those difficulties that these students have with citations to back up what we're saying. I'm not just doing this based off of my opinion or opinion of the teacher down the street. This is research-based information that tells me that what I'm including in this paper is accurate. So now, again, I'm kind of setting up the argument for why we're going to implement this intervention in this type of classroom. We're saying that effective behavior management strategies are necessary for students to be successful. We talk about that. We're providing references to back up the points that we're making throughout. So we've kind of set up, here's the problem, right? Kids with EBD have difficulties related to academic engagement, related to peer interactions, related to disruptive behaviors. So now we're going to talk about the intervention. So we begin broadly by talking about peer-mediated interventions generally, and then get more specific into positive peer reporting, which is the larger umbrella, describing that, and then getting specific into tootling. So we're actually using tootling, which is a form of positive peer reporting. So we talked about the broader concept. Now we're talking specifically about the intervention that we're going to use. Oops. And then once we've explained that, we explain how it works, how you implement it, discuss some studies that have evaluated its effectiveness in the past. Now we're going to talk even more specifically about using this intervention specifically for students with behavior difficulties. Again, you'll see we're using citations. You're seeing that we're not using the same citation over and over again. We're trying to use a broad range of researchers and studies that have evaluated this. And then the final part of the introduction is the purpose to your study. So what specifically are we trying to do? What questions are we attempting to answer? So for 600, that's where you're going to stop. You have your title page, you have your abstract, and then you're writing the introduction, which is the argument for why you're going to do the study that you're going to do. In 610, you will move on and also discuss the method. So in the method, you describe the participants, so what students were part of your study, and the setting. Where was the study conducted? In this case, it was conducted in a classroom in a public school that was specifically designed for students with emotional behavioral disorders. You're going to describe all the materials that needed to be used for the study. So Toodle cards, I'm not going to read through all of this, but you'll see that there's a wide range of things you need to describe in detail so that somebody who's reading your study could replicate what you did. So I can go back and find a Toodle box that is similar to the one that was done in this study. I could find a thermometer that is similar to the one that was used for this particular study. The rewards, the data collection sheet, logs that the teacher used, all the materials that we needed to conduct this study. Then we described the dependent measures. We looked at on-task behavior, and we described and provided an operational definition for what that looked like for our study. Disruptive behavior, pro-social behavior. So we've defined each one and provided examples. We then discussed the research design. We used an AB withdrawal design, which you guys should be somewhat familiar with, and you will learn more about next semester. Described how that was done and how data collection was done. Now we get into the procedures. So this is step by step, what did we do to conduct the study? Teacher training. We did baseline data collection. We did student training. And then we describe what the tootling intervention looked like in that classroom. Describe how we collected the inter-observer agreement and procedural integrity data. And then, so that's all of your method. Then we move into the results. We describe what we found, what the results were for that study. We did some statistical analyses using TAU, so that's included there too. Then the discussion. So the discussion is kind of bringing it all together. You've described what you learned, or the data, and now you're going to discuss what those data mean in the discussion. So pulling it back to what we already know. Then we have all of our references. So this is just like what you did this semester. And you will include the references in your paper that you'll turn in for 600. So you're going to skip the method, you're going to skip the results, skip the discussion. You will include a reference list. And then we have our graph or our figure of the data that we collected. And then we have some tables that were included. So that is a walkthrough of an APA formatted research paper manuscript and the format that you will be using. Again, you're only going to, for SPED 600, you're just doing those first few sections and the reference list, but you will complete the full paper for 610 and 694. If you have any questions, please let me know. I'm happy to set up a meeting. We do have a meeting this week. So you can ask questions there, or we can set up a time to meet independently. Have a great week, everybody. I hope this was helpful. Let me know if you have any questions.